Hey guys, vegan cyclist here. So I want to talk about interval training. I'm deep in the race season now. Race season starts for me at the end of January. So starting to put in some high intensity training into my program is mandatory, right? I really need to exercise that part of my efforts. So what is interval training? What can you do to incorporate that into your program? Is it just for racers? Kind of want to go through some of these questions and give you my tips on interval training. So first thing, interval training is not for only racers. Like it's definitely for racers, but you don't have to race to have interval training be something that's going to be productive for you. If you do a lot of like centuries or long distance rides or just group rides, period, and you stick around, something that's not super intense most of the time, in interval training is going to help you, right? So being able to do 10 minutes at a high pace will allow you really to go further, longer at a lower pace. But it doesn't really work the other way around. You can't go and ride 5 hours in zone 1 or 2 and then not help you with your high end work, right? So high end work is really, really important. And if you're a racer, you definitely need to be doing interval training. But if you're not a racer, absolutely, I would say incorporate this into your program. So what interval training really is basically doing something repetitive over and over and over again. Okay. The rule of thumb is that the amount of time that you're on. So if like you're going up the hill or you're, just streaking down the flats, whatever your on interval is going to be about 2 times or double what your off is. So if you're doing a 5 minute on effort, your off time of the interval is going to be half that. So about 2.5 minutes, right? And then you're going to do that multiple times. So one of the most recent workouts I did was 5 minutes on, 2.5 minutes off, 5 times. And so, that, not really that long of a workout. It definitely is brutal. But what you're going to want to do is do a nice warm up to where you're doing your intervals. And it can be on a flat road if you want. I live in a hilly area, so hills really work out well for me. But whatever it is, you need to be able to do, say, your on interval without being interrupted. So like no stop signs or turns or anything like that. Try to make a nice straight road. And then you want to be able to have as many pretty much as you possibly can, right? So if you go out and you do, say, 3 reps of 5 minute intervals, and you feel really good afterwards and you just, you blast home, you probably should up those amount. But you don't want to do too many to where then you're not able to keep the power consistent. And that leads me into my next tip. If you don't have a power meter, you should totally get one. But so when you're doing your intervals, you want to keep it consistent across the board. So say you have 5 minute intervals with 2.5 minutes rest. And your first one is 370 watts. And then your second one, because you felt really, really good. And then your second one is 350 watts and you're starting to hurt. Then your third one is 320 watts and you're just crawling up the hill and you're just kind of swerving across the road. And then your fourth and fifth one aren't even in zone 4. You're like 250 watts, for the 5 minute average. That's not what you want to do. You want to try to keep it consistent across the board. So my most recent workout was 345 across the board. So I did 5 minute efforts. Each one of them was an average of 345 watts. So the first 2, I definitely had more in my tank. I could have gone harder. I could have definitely, gone and did more watts. But I needed to make sure that my 5th set, that I was going to be able to manage 345 watts. So that's going to be able to stabilize the zone that you're training in, that you're not going zone 5, 6 on the first 2 and then zone 2 and 3 on the last 2. You want to keep it, all zone 4 if that's what you're training for. On your recovery interval, so the time that you're off, is you want to be able to just kind of spin out your legs. If you've got a nice long straight road, keeping it in zone 1, if you're a beast, you can kind of keep it low zone 2. In the recovery, you just need to make sure that you're able to do the power on the on intervals. That's what's more important. So if you can keep spinning, fantastic. If you're going downhill, I know it's really hard sometimes to keep up not have a lot of power going out because you're just spinning. But try not to just shut off the pedals, right? Try to get over the top of the hill or stop your interval and kind of just slowly wind down, right? Now give your body a chance to learn how to recover under stress. And so you're not just like maxed out to the limit and then just slamming on the brakes, basically just like completely stopping and teaching your body that, well, the only way I can recover is to just be totally inactive. So when you're done with your on interval, don't just completely shut down, keep spinning it out, loosen up those legs and try breathing and getting ready for the next one. And so interval time ranges, you mean whatever you feel like is your weakness, right? You could try doing some 10-minute intervals. So the on would be 10, the off would be 5 minutes. And so when I first started doing intervals this year, that's where I started off with doing 4 10-minute intervals, and then worked my way up into doing 6 10-minute intervals, which were just brutal, just horrible. I did also some 15-minute intervals. So it's 15 minutes on, 10 minutes off. Obviously, the power requirement there is much less than what you're going to want to put out for the lower end stuff. But I did those kind of working into my race season. Now that I'm here, I'm doing more high end stuff, short time, high end power, so that I don't build up a lot of fatigue for the races. Interval training is not something you want to do every single day that you go out. You're really going to just dig deep. Your heart rate's going to be through the roof. And so you don't want to necessarily do this all the time. I mean, you really need to be able to take breaks from this. And so my interval training, if I'm not going to race in a week, is twice a week. That's usually what I'm doing. So two times in the week, I'm going to do interval training. That's without a race. If I have a race, I'm going to do one effort, one interval block that week, because the race will pretty much be intervals that I don't want to do, that I don't have a part, that have a part in saying how hard I have to go. But, so 1 to 2 times a week is what you want to do for your intervals. Also, intervals don't have to be high end stuff. It's just basically you're repeating something. So something that I did kind of in my base training phase, right, like in the winter, was SFRs. So slow frequent reps. So you're basically going about 50 RPMs, and you're really focusing on your pedal stroke and being able to apply power all the way through the pedal, like just 360 degrees of power. And so on this, I would do about 5 minutes on, and then about 3 minutes off for my SFRs. And it's just slow turning the pedals. And you don't necessarily have to be putting out a lot of power. It just kind of, for me, I was in zone 2 to zone 3 for these. But I really, really like these. I feel like the very next day I can see benefits from this, just because that my muscle memory for being able to apply that power all the way around. And so you don't want to go really, really low in your cadence. You want to be like 20 or 30 cadence, because you start messing up your knees. But try to keep it around 50 RPM. So that's another thing you can do. That's an interval. You're doing, say, 5 of these, 5 reps of 5 minutes on, 2.5 minutes off, and it's going to really, really help out your training. So thank you so much, guys, for checking this out. I hope that you guys can start putting in some interval training into your program. Let me know how it goes, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much, guys.